How do the 9 levels of the wealth spectrum link together, and how does it relate to the Lighthouse? And how, when you know what your level is, does it link in with the others? Here's where I'm going to share them, and more importantly, share why it is that we get stuck at a level. You might have found that you actually found it quite easy to go to a certain level, and then it's like, why can't I move past this level? Why does it feel so difficult? So the first thing is, let's look at the Lighthouse. Here's the Lighthouse where you could almost divide this up, first of all, into the different prisms, right? So let's just actually go through and say, here's the prisms. We already can see that there's a square within this, which is how we end up with the 4 different geniuses. And now we're basically looking and saying, well, how is it that we actually can go from one level up to the next, and why do we need to go in that order? The first ones here are called the foundation of the first 3. And this is all about our personal flow. And we're going to see why we get stuck at these levels, or why when we try and chase too much to go past them, up to these ones here, we never quite make it, right? And there's a reason for that. The next ones is if we can actually get that right. So we've got the personal flow going, which is a little bit like knowing you want to get onto the ship to go sail somewhere, but at the same time, realizing you need to learn how to swim, because no crew is going to be allowed on the ship unless they know how to swim. Not that they expect you're going to go swim over the ocean, but if you don't know how to swim, you haven't earned the right yet to be on the crew. So foundation is about to what extent are you able to look after yourself, so that you can then go up to the next level of flow, which is the enterprise prism. And the enterprise prism is where all the flow of the market happens. Every single day, there's over $7 trillion around the world that actually changes hands. It doesn't stay in one place. It's moving. Even the banks invest the money. Individuals will go and take the money and go spend it at shops. You have retailers go and spend it with their suppliers, who then spend it with the factories. And so you're always seeing the money moving, and it will move multiple times during the day. And all of it is moving to wherever is the area of greatest value, which means that in order to get into that flow, it requires you being of greatest value and connecting up with the pieces so that you're not trying to go and make it all happen on your own. And there are here 3 different levels that allow us to go up the enterprise prism. And then from there, if we are successful at that, we earn the right to get up to alchemy prism, where all the music is made. This is where the rules of the game are set in the first place. Now, I'm just going to walk through these fairly briefly. Of course, they're all in the Millionaire Mastermind book, but I'm going to add in a couple of thoughts as to why we get stuck within them as well. And think of them like gears, because you can get stuck in a gear in a car, and then there's only so fast you can go. Or you might be in a gear and you forget to change gears, like if you just started learning how to get in the car and you're over-revving the engine, you can feel it over-revving, and everything's kind of like whining. And some of us have had that experience in life. And if that's happening, then it's like, oh, this means it's time to change gear now. So we want to then lift up to the next level. And the rules of the game change when that happens. So let's look at these in a way that I could actually redraw it with 2 sides, where we're going to go step by step from the first step here, which is our infrared level. And then we're going to go up to this level here. And then we're going to go up again. And we're just going to keep on going up. And we're going to see what happens differently as we start stepping up the levels as well. And let's at the top, just so we can see why we've broken into 2, put 2 words. The one on this side I'll put is driver. Think of it like a driver in a car. Doesn't need to know how the engine works or anything like that. Didn't have to put the car together, just driving it. And then on this side I'll put designer. And that's like the person who designed the car. Often you'll find that if there's a car race happening, that the driver in the car is actually supported by an entire pit crew. And whoever designed the car and everything might be actually watching to see what design tweaks they need to do, but they're certainly not the ones actually in the car. And as we go up here, let's have a look and see what changes in what we do. On this side here, we have infrared. Infrared is our victim. A victim doesn't mean you're a victim from the point of view you go around telling everyone you're the victim, but you certainly feel that there's a sense that you could be doing better, and the environment or the circumstances makes it very difficult for that to happen. So this side here is when you're going more in debt on an ongoing basis, where every single month you're going behind, and you're aiming to get up to this level. It's like drowning, where it's like you're bleeding, you're going backwards, and you're just stabilizing here, which is red level, which is survivor. And that's like, okay, everything's okay, I'm treading water now. Right? That's what's happening at this level here. And the vast majority of people in many of the Western countries are at one of these 2 levels. Because frankly, did you know 100 years ago you couldn't get a credit card, you couldn't get a mortgage, there was no such thing as consumer debt. These all got created in the 20th century, and what's happened is as a result of a lot of these, we're actually living beyond our means. Or the cost of living has gone so high compared to our earnings that we just have ended up falling further and further behind. And so we're all looking to say, how do we get back on top of that situation there? These two here, what's really interesting is that they link into something called our personal value. So if we were to think about the equation for wealth, wealth equals value times leverage. And we talked about this on an earlier video where we talked about a river and how value will change the speed of money flow, leverage will change the volume of money flow, and it's all great plumbing. If you can get the plumbing right, then money will flow on its own while you're actually then really organizing and building your plumbing. Just like if you're good at designing a road system, you know, all the cars can drive on their own and find their way around, provided you've actually designed it in such a way to allow that flow to happen. And so from here, you're actually going from, to what extent, at value, do we start with this thing called personal value? Another word for personal value is personal worth. How much am I worth? How much more can I be getting? And how do I set myself up to get that? Where at the personal value stage, you have a life in which you are trying to drive your personal value, where you're actually trying to make things happen, mainly from getting a job or trying to work hard at doing something, but nothing seems to be enough, compared to actually designing a word where you've got enough. You designed it so there's more. And you have to give something up to do that, by the way. And we're going to come back to what you have to give up to do that. And for people here, they're not even necessarily aware you have to give something up. And I want to share with you what that is and how once you change your thinking, because it is all about our mindset, then suddenly the strategies become much easier to follow. Because you've probably heard a lot of the strategies already, but because you've been following them in the wrong way with the wrong genius, or because you've been holding on to the wrong thing, we get stuck at that level. But let's imagine you didn't get stuck and you moved up. And the good news is, now you're at this level, you design personal value, and you go, I've got to a certain level where I can't get more personal value. I'm out there doing my thing, but how do I go up to the next level? This person up here is now next level up, which is our orange worker. So this is all in the foundation prism, where we're going from the infrared to the red to the orange, and this is the top of the foundation prism. It's about as far as you can go by basically now working on your personal flow so you go positive. But at this point, you've got to practice where you don't have to worry so much about starting up the business. In fact, to go up these levels here, if we go up these levels here, we're actually going up to this one here, which is our yellow level. So yellow is now up to this level. It's the next prism, which is enterprise, which is the player. Going from work to play is a big difference. And then from player, we then get up to this level here, green, which is our performer. Who is not one person doing all things, it's all people doing one thing. High performance teams, lots of big corporations, that's what they're doing with their top executives, which is why they can get paid so much, because they're actually playing a different kind of a game. And so they're in high demand. And you can all learn how to do that. It's just a matter of understanding what they're doing differently. So what are they doing differently? Well, the first thing is knowing that while on this side we're all focusing at either driving or designing a life of personal value, these two are now about something called personal leverage. So, for example, if you're walking, you're using your personal value, using your own energy. If you're riding a bicycle, you now are using personal leverage. You're actually leveraging that value by using gears and machines on that bike, which is allowing you to go faster than you could otherwise. That's what's happening when you're a worker. You're going to earn more money than trying to figure it all out or doing it all on your own, because you're in a business which is a machine, just like a bicycle, where they've taken your time and then they've kind of leveraged it with other people's time and other things, brands and all the rest of it, to create a product that people are willing to pay more money for. Therefore, they can afford to pay you more for your time than you could afford to pay yourself down here. So what's happening up here is you're getting to a point where you're actually at positive, but you're being driven, you're driving personal leverage. You didn't design that system. And if you have to go out and start your own business, it's like, I didn't have to design a business where I can set the right product, connect with the right market. I don't know how to do all of that. A player does. A player is the one who's actually said, no, I've actually figured all that out. I've got my own business now, and I'm actually feeling pretty good about how way this business is working. And as a result of that, they've now designed a personal leverage mechanism for them, which is a business or investments. Now they have to unlearn something to go up to this level, because now we've actually gone from the highest, from personal value to personal leverage, to team value and team leverage, which is not about you anymore, it's about other people. So here we're going from a performer up to a conductor, who are actually playing now a different game. They had to earn their right up here, but now these two are focusing at something called team, or I'm going to use another word which you'll be familiar with, which is the word social. Social is about people. So these two here is all now about social value. And social value then will obviously go on to social leverage, we'll get to. But social value is like the value of the team. And you might say, no, I have the value of the team. That's very different from actually now saying, I'm going to let my personal leverage go to go up here where the company becomes more important than me, where I'm just a piece of the company now. And now you're at a point at performer level where you have to let something go, which again we'll come back to get to here. And then what's happening is a conductor who's attracting great performers. Just like conductors don't face the audience, they actually face their performers in an orchestra. You're going to see that at this level, they're designing social value. They're designing teams that actually are on their own working without them having to be there, which is how they can have multiple businesses, multiple teams, which leads to multiple streams. And from here, you then go up to the next level, and I'll just finish on this, and then I'll come back to the reason all of this sounds like it's doable, but then it becomes complicated. I'm going to something called social leverage, where at conductor level, someone like a Richard Branson, he could just sit there watching his businesses go, but if he wants to make a bigger difference in the world, he comes over and drives now a movement, which is exactly what he's doing with the entrepreneur movement at the moment. It's now going up to this level, which is called the trustee. Just like a trustee in a theater doesn't need to be there, but without a trustee, the theater wouldn't have come into existence in the first place. This is indigo level, and then that leads us to people like Bill Gates and others who are actually looking to redesign the system now, which is up here. I'll put the final one up here as well. And this one here is the composer, like the musician, the composer who wrote the music, doesn't have to be there playing it. And all our taxes, all the money that we have is all as a result of this composition here, these composers who often tend to be the politicians today. They used to be the kings and queens. They're now increasingly becoming entrepreneurs and others that are looking to make a big difference in the world. There's people like Muhammad Yunus in Asia who've done an amazing job with microfinancing, and there's others out there like Nelson Mandela who've gone through that process where they've actually created a different structure that we're all living under now within our country. So this one here, composer, is at violet level, and then that will lead eventually to the trustee up here. Sorry, not trustee, the legend up here. Legend, if you think about a map, in a map you have a legend that you don't even need to see, the legend for the petrol station or the legend for, the mountain or whatever. Like the legend's a symbol. And we become a symbol for our time here. This is ultraviolet level, which only happens when we're in the right up and we've got enough trust taking place that people are willing to follow. And you never become the legend because you think you are. You become the legend because others make you. And often it's after you die. People like Steve Jobs, people like Nelson Mandela have become legends in their time. And all of these steps up here, you can see how they link all of humanity. We're all in this. We're all in the rainbow. But we tend to get stuck at a particular level because we're not aware there's something that we are holding on to that we need to let go of. And the two things in general, first of all, I'll go through general, then I'll go through specifics. In general, on this side here, we have something which is called freedom of connection or freedom of choice. And this one we have freedom of movement. Now think about that. If you're in one place, then everything can move through you in the connections. If you disconnect, then you can move around. And what happens here is that on this side here, we have freedom of connection or choice. So often you might be at an infrared level and you're going, I want to go higher. But it's like, wait, you mean I have to cut down on that habit that I have, or I've got to spend less in that area in order to move up to red level? No, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not going to give up those choices yet. You mean I've got to show up for that job in that particular way and only earn that much money instead of having the time doing what I do? No, I'm not willing to do that. And whether it be one thing or another in terms of freedom of choice or even of connection. You mean I won't be able to spend as much time with the people I love or with my family? I'm not going to make that decision, and we end up going more and more in debt. Even to, no, I won't sell my house because I have a personal connection to the house. Knowing that if you did, you would actually be able to go out and start moving upwards where you don't have that stress every day of running out of time before the end of the month, running out of money before the end of the month. When you start saying, okay, I'll give that up. If it gives me something new, what does it give me? Well, when you actually move up to survivor level, you get something new, which is freedom of movement. You go, oh, look at this. I can actually have new choices based on where I can now go. Because now I've got that job where I'm doing something great in this particular area, or I'm actually now working with a different team. New opportunities are showing up, which opens up new things that I can be doing. So yes, you have to give up some things here, but now you're at the survivor level, and you're thinking this feels pretty good, until someone says, well, what about the worker? The worker actually increases the cash flow coming in, opens up new opportunities. But now you've actually got to then have to, be more connected in with other people in a particular way. We have to show up and be more accountable to them. And you just got your independence. You're like, I don't know if I really want to do that. So that ended up getting caught in that thought process. I've mentored many people where they go, I want to do it. But when it really comes down to it, they weren't letting go of those things that unconsciously they had been fighting for to get to that place in the first place. Let's imagine they did do that, and often they do. They get to this level, it's like, wow, that was great. I might have given up temporarily my freedom of movement, but I've got new choices. I've got new connections happening. I've got new people I'm meeting up with I wouldn't meet if I wasn't showing up in this job or in this role. And so they feel great about that. It's like suddenly people are coming wanting to do business with them. I know many self-employed people who are at orange level. They've got their own business, but they're chasing all the business. And then I'd be saying to them, if you want to go to yellow level, you need to have a niche. You need to have a very specific market in a particular area. And they'll go, no, that would mean that I'll give up my choice. I want to be able to help everybody. It's like, well, you can't help everyone. Just like a restaurant can't serve every food, you need to be able to focus in a particular area to attract people to you so you're not having to chase people. When they finally say, okay, I'll give up all of my freedom of connection and choice to just focus at one thing, and they suddenly realize people are now coming to them, they now get freedom of movement. I can work from anywhere in the world. I can travel to another city and I can still basically be of great value. And what happens is they get up to this player level where it's like now they can travel around the world, they can work, they can get freedom. They've got freedom of movement. They think this is fantastic. Then they go, why do I have to keep on doing this all on my own? I want to have a team that can do things with me. They want to find people who are performers to run their business for them. But they can't, because the performers are working with other people that are willing to show up. You mean I have to show up for that finance meeting now? I've actually got to basically, spend more time on the rehearsals before the band goes on stage, and more time, putting systems together for my business with my team. That sounds like I have to give up my freedom of movement. I have to give up my independence. Yes, you do, because this level is now interdependence. It's a very different way of thinking. But if you're willing to give up some of that to get to this level, you suddenly find everyone's willing to show up for you as well. And then at that point, it's like, oh, this feels great. And now I'm getting the credit for all the things that the whole team's doing. And I'm sharing that credit with them. And I'm getting all these new choices and all these new connections, which is great. But if you then say, well, I'd like to have multiple businesses, you actually have to detach and no longer be that performer in there. You need to actually have people coming and being performers to you. You can't even be like showing up at all those meetings the same way anymore, which means that you're no longer in the thick of it. But if you choose to do that and you actually step out here, you give up some of this freedom of choice and you come back and have freedom of movement again. Now you're at a high level because you've got high-level performing teams working with you. And so the same goes on. The decision Richard Branson had to make was say, well, I've got all that freedom. Do I want to give up some of it, have to show up again for a movement I believe in, because your movement would expect you to show up. And if you go, yes, no, I'm willing to do that, you again give that up to come back here. Now you're actually at the social leverage stage where you're actually learning how to design it. You earn the right to do that. And then you come to the composer level where you no longer have to be there, but you've earned the right to design, and people are willing for you to do that, whether they vote you in as a politician, whether they actually vote you into a group as someone who's a leader within that group. And then from there, it then leads up to the trustee level, which is residence. Residence is the highest form of leverage, where you just are now at a vibration beyond your own lifetime, which allows you to leave that legacy. Every one of these different steps has got something very general. And every one of these steps also has something very, very specific, which we need to let go of as well. And without going into all the detail, because I write about it in the book, but I want you to be just aware of it, is at this level here, the victim is someone who has ideas because they don't have all the connections yet. You, if you're at that point, may have an idea like, why don't people just know what a great idea I have, what a great concept I have, or I had an opinion on something. Why aren't they even listening to my opinion? Well, realize that the only way to move forward is you've got to let go of that for now. Because whereas the self-worth you feel at the end of the day is whether or not your opinion got through, your idea got through. And if people start, arguing about your idea or your opinion, and at that point when they're doing that, you feel bad about that, is something that up here, they don't feel bad about that at all. They're not too worried about that because they've got their self-worth connected to something else. So you take your self-worth off those opinions and say, whatever my ideas are, they can wait until later. Where do I need to take my self-worth? And you take it from here, and over here, you put it onto something new, which is called service. Your ability to serve. A number of people I know who are at infrared level and going, I want to go higher, but I can't. I've got great ideas. I've got a business I want to start. And it's like, okay, well, put that on hold for a moment. What's a team you can go and actually get inspired in and get connected to and start serving? And they'll find a team and they'll get involved in that team. And suddenly that service is enough at the end of the day, go, I just had a great day today. Didn't have to share my ideas. Didn't have to see my business idea be the one that gets successful. Just by having the ability to serve others, I earned more money. I was of more value. And at this level here, survivors, they will be attached to this whole sense of self-worth, which is serving. Whenever I have gone into debt and I have ended up at infrared level, this is the first thing I'll look to do. Who can I serve most effectively in such a way that I build my self-worth back up, get back connected again? And then once you get to that level, you actually need to let the service go to get to this one, which is all about hard work. It's all about application. When you think about the people who go through every single day saying, look, I'm putting in a hard day's work, that's where I get my self-worth. This sense here, which is the worker, when you have that, it's great because it means you're actually not going to be enough just to serve. You want to serve at your best, and it actually adds that element in which gets you top of foundation. It's that work ethic. And that work ethic, you earn the right to get to this level, but it stops you from getting to the next level. Because to get to yellow level, you can no longer see hard work as the main reason for getting to your success. Because at this level, it's not about the hard work. It's actually the opposite, which is feeling special. At this level, if someone came to this person and said, hey, I just want to give you double the money because I just think you're great, you'd feel guilty. It's like, well, no, I've got to put the work in to do this. Whereas at yellow level, if they can find smart ways to do things, they'll say, no, if I actually have a whole week of hard work and I'm not getting the result, something's really wrong. I've got to find ways to work smarter. I've got to find ways that things will come my way. And when things do come your way, you actually get the value out of that, brilliant. But that stops you from getting to here. Because the moment that someone comes up to you and says, I know you can do amazing work, can you help me? Of course, because you get your value at the end of the day by knowing that you're someone special, doing something special, you'll be saying, of course I can help you. But to get the green level, you can't be doing that anymore. You need to be saying, I know the person who can help you. And you're actually now reflecting onto the team, which is no longer about you being special, it's about your team being more special than you are. It's a very big change, subtle change, but a big change. Some people think of these colors, just like Isaac Newton did, as different colors within a rainbow, or as different colors within like chakras in the Indian system, where yellow level is about will, green level is about heart. It's about not like how do I make money, it's about how do I help you make money. It's not about what do I need to do, it's about how can I help you do what you need to do. So when you get to this level here, it's all about the team, and so you're then rooting for the team and feeling great about that. That's at that level there, you're no longer about feeling special about yourself. When you then connect that self-worth up to here, you can no longer be thinking about the team. It's about your performers. In fact, the performers might even change the teams you put together, but now in order to get to this level, you need to give that value and authority to those performers, as you'll see all conductors do. And then it's now basically saying, well, then what do I hold my self-worth to? And it's something called your balance. Balance in life, balance in everything taking place around you in your balance sheet, which is your portfolio of assets that are creating flow. And people can come and say nasty things and, rally against you. And as long as you're doing what's right for you and your mission to make a difference in the world, that will be enough for you, right? And you'll find that the higher up you go, the more you'll find different risks, whether it's people criticizing you, whether it's at the highest level, people threatening your life. You can't actually get to composer and higher without having to have bodyguards, because that's what happens as you get higher up, or think about it going deeper into the sea, you get higher highs and lower lows of the waves. Don't think for a moment that just by going up, you end up with a better life. You end up with more extremes, but at the same time, and you end up with a higher chance of being able to make a difference in the world and a bigger impact in the world as well. But we all get to choose which of these levels we actually go to based on what it is we want to link our self-worth to. And believe me, we all need a sense of self-worth to be worthy, because it's only by actually focusing on our worth and being worthy do we even have a chance of becoming wealthy. So I hope that through this video you've had a chance to see that we really can go quite a bit deeper in each of these. Think of these like notes on a musical scale. Think of them like gears in a car. They're distinct from each other, but they're all required in order to actually be able to manage all flows, whether you're going slower or going faster, and all tempos. And fundamentally, at the end of the day, it's actually the combination of them all which actually creates the harmony of life. So from here, with a sense of what the geniuses are, with what the levels are, you make your decision as to whether or not you want to stay at your level or whether you want to move, and be very aware that the path you're going to take to go from one level to another is one that many have taken before you, before me. That's the great thing about this. This is a map which I didn't have to figure out. It was already there. I just helped to basically put some form to it in such a way that we can then learn from the people we need to learn through at one point, instead of trying to learn from everybody, because at every step, the winning formula becomes the losing formula at the step above. So as we go forward now, take the steps as you go. Be very aware it's not about just going through the motions of taking the step. It's about introspection and realizing that within yourself, there have been certain things that have been happening in your value systems and the way that you got successful at one level, which is how you got that successful, but also what's now stopping you from getting successful at the next level. So there's unlearning that takes place in order to learn again. And with that, let's see where we can now go forward to with the steps in the spectrum as we now go up to that next level.